Last week, I was on an Instagram Live with @shine.science, and I got asked the question about how I handle criticism on social media. As you guys know, I put myself out there a lot. I blog, I have the YouTube channel, I have this podcast that you're listening to, Instagram, Pinterest, I know I'm missing stuff. I'm on TikTok, but I had to stop because it was just taking too much time. But anyway, I am everywhere. And a lot of people wonder how I deal with this, because when you put yourself out there, you are innately succumbing yourself to comments. They always say, don't read the comments. Well, I am here to tell you that I read all of the comments, every single comment I get, and I respond to a lot of the comments. So today I'm going to talk to you about my attitude towards dealing with the comments. And even if you are not on social media, even if you are not a scientist, all of this advice is really great for dealing with any sort of unsolicited advice or rejection of any sort, which happens to all of us in life. And if you want to become a scientist or in the sciences, you for sure know that rejection is a part of the deal. We have to write scientific papers. We take tests on our way to getting our degrees. When you're doing your master's or your PhD, you have thesis and dissertation defenses. So you have all these tests where you have the opportunity to get rejected, and of course, job rejections too. So this podcast is really full of some great advice, no matter who you are, and I really hope you find it useful. So let's just get started. Let's get into the content. Before we get started on actually dealing with the comments and going through some of the comments that I get, let's first set the stage for this problem. So why are scientists putting themselves out there? Why are they having social media, blogs, podcasts, etc.? Well, we do it for different reasons. For some of us, it actually is part of our job. But a lot of us do it really as like a side thing because we want to, and we either feel like we have some sort of responsibility to society, or we just really enjoy doing that. We enjoy sharing our research, sharing science, sharing this knowledge that we have that regular people don't know, including myself. I don't know a lot of what other scientists know, so we can learn from each other. So a lot of scientists are genuinely excited about creating their own Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts, and sharing knowledge, sharing the inside scoop on their research. But there has also been, I would say, pressure, I'm going to use the word pressure lightly, that scientists share their research because there's been a public disconnect with science, at least here in the United States, and there has been an increase of mistrust of the public towards scientists. We saw this happen with COVID, where some people were really against the masks, and now we have some people who don't think that the vaccine is safe. It is. It's well researched, so I highly encourage you to get your vaccines. I got my last one last Saturday. So we have some public mistrust of science. Here in the United States, we had a lot of people who didn't want to accept that people are the driving cause of accelerated climate change. So there's been a lot of issues where the data is really strong. So vaccines, climate change, the data are really, really, really strong that climate change is driven by human actions and that vaccines are safe. But there's still this communication gap with the public. Scientists are therefore under this pressure, whether it's self-pressure or we feel it from our institutions, honestly, a lot of this comes internally, to to talk to the public and to share our research with them so they gain more trust. And there's been research to show that when people know other scientists and when they see them, they're going to have this connection between them and have them be more likely to believe them. And they're going to see that we're humans too. When I was growing up, the only scientist I knew of was Jane Goodall. And outside of her, I always thought of scientists like in lab coats, in chemistry labs, mixing test tubes, the stock photo images that we all get in our heads. So doing this, by putting ourselves out there, we show that we're humans, we're compassionate, we're fun, or most of us are fun, that we're not so serious, we're not so one-dimensional, and that we can relate with you on a human level. This is a big reason why I do Fancy Scientist. Every Friday I feature a different fancy scientist, because so many of us have this stereotype of what a scientist looks like. And because I tend to be fancy, and that's how I got my name, Fancy Scientist, I worked with teachers and they were surprised by how fancy I was. I made it a mission to find a different fancy scientist to feature every single Friday, and there are so many of them out there. Last week I featured somebody who is a beauty queen. She had all these beautiful pageant photos, and by looking at her, through the stereotypical lens that our society gives, you would think, like, I would never expect her to be a scientist. That's what would go through your head. So anyway, I am trying to dismantle this stereotype. And over the past few years, there's definitely been a lot of scientists jumping on social media, especially Twitter, especially Instagram, and I think it's a really great thing. Another big reason why scientists put themselves out there is because the way that we communicate our research is inaccessible to most people. The primary way that scientists communicate is through peer-reviewed publications. So we publish our results in an academic journal, and most people can't read those. Even myself, if I were to read a paper published in an academic journal, a scientific journal of a different discipline, I would really struggle to understand a lot of the methods, data analyses, things like that. So it's really inaccessible to the public. So like for me, I get a lot of joy out of my research, and the most fun part is sharing about it, in my opinion. So that's why I've devoted so much of my life, honestly, and now my full-time business to science communication. I wanted to talk about comments and dealing with negativity too, because first, I want to encourage scientists and everyone out there, if you want to put yourself on social media as an educational platform, do it. People have this perception, which is why they asked me the question of how do I deal with negativity and comments? And I first and foremost wanted to say that for me, social media has been an extremely pleasant experience. By far, most of my comments are nice, helpful, people thanking me, or even just the little likes and stuff, they help a lot. So I think a lot of scientists are really scared to put themselves out there because they are afraid of being criticized. I think a lot of scientists are afraid of being wrong too. And it's okay to be wrong. We are all wrong at times in our life. I have been wrong before in creating content. And with blogging, it's really great because you can just update your blog posts. That's awesome. And nobody knows you're wrong in the first place. With other things like Twitter and other forms of social media, Instagram you can update, Facebook you can update. But other things you can't. There are ways to include little corrections. So for Twitter, you could delete your tweet, or you can respond to people and correct the tweet. So things like this happen all the time, and quite honestly, they're no big deal. So don't let this hold you back from starting to do scientific communication or any educational endeavor, because honestly, it's such a tiny, tiny portion of science communication. Okay, so let's get into what the what it's like to get comments and how I deal with it. So first of all, I have a couple of different comments that I wanted to disentangle. I wanted to separate them for you. So first of all, there are the trolling comments. And the next category I give is a negative comment, but it's informative. And it can be ridiculously negative too. And another one is just disagreements. So trolling is the one that I think most people are scared of. And, you know, it can be awful and mean, horrible comments. If you watch South Park, I love South Park. There's an episode where Kyle's dad turns into an internet troll and just says these ridiculous, harmful, mean things. And if you get a comment that is like so cruel, so nasty, just flat out ignore it. That's a troll. They are trying to get a rise out of you. I rarely get those kinds of comments. I can only think of like a couple of instances where I've had those comments, and it's laughable. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. It totally doesn't hit me at all because it's so ridiculous that it's like, of course they're just trying to ruffle my feathers or whatever. I don't even know what they're trying to do, make themselves feel good. So for example, in my Instagram stories, I had my hair up one time, like a top knot, and I didn't have any makeup on. I didn't look the best. I knew that. And you know, sometimes with your camera angle, you look strange. And somebody replied to me in my stories, I looked like a snake. Obviously, I know I don't look like a snake, so that just, okay, whatever, just fine. It made me laugh, actually. So that's the way that I respond to trolling comments, is I really don't give them just even two thoughts, really. I just think they're so ridiculous and so stupid that I ignore them. Now, where it does come into play is if somebody is trolling you or saying something mean to you and you feel that there's a bit of truth to it. For example, somebody wrote to me in my stories that I look like I'm on the edge of exhaustion. And somebody else insinuated at one time in real life that I had under eye bags. And I do, I mean, everyone does, but my under eyes, they just like naturally indent. So I don't get like puffy eyes. And if I sleep a lot, they're still like naturally indented. That's what the word I'm looking for. They're indented. So it kind of looks like I have this bigger under eye than I actually do. And I read that comment and it did get to me for a minute. Like, oh my God, like do I look exhausted? Do I look just, you know, awful here on social media? So there are some comments where it does hit you to something you might feel vulnerable to. And I'll go through a little bit later how I deal with comments like that. Like what are the steps that I do to overcome comments that genuinely do hurt my feelings. And then there's comments that are really just disagreements. So for example, I rarely post anything related to politics because I genuinely want to appeal to a wide audience. I embrace all different people from all different backgrounds. I have friends from all the extremes of the political parties here in the United States, extremely conservative and extremely liberal. But I did feel around election time that I needed to make a post talking about politics because voting is such an integral part of conservation and the environment. And somebody commented, basically, you know, they said something nasty, like I didn't know what I'm talking about, and I don't remember the specific details of it, but they gave information in their comment to support their argument. So in that case, I did reply to the comment and you know, talked about my own argument. So in that case, it was negative in tone, but it didn't bother me because it was just something that we disagreed about. And I truly believe it's okay to have disagreements on social media. And so many people don't handle comments on social media well. And I belong to this Facebook group it's like wildlife identification in North Carolina. And I cannot believe how many posts there are where the admin has to turn off the comments. And these are just about wildlife photos, like identifying wildlife. But people can get, so nasty and so back and forth in the comments just over something silly as an identification that, we've just kind of like lost our ability to deal with these types of comments and to have these types of discussions. And it's okay to be in disagreement with somebody. So one of my steps for comments, I'm just going to go right into the types of things that I do to deal with the comments, is that no matter what the comment is, pretty much, unless it's trolling I usually completely ignore. But no matter what the comment is, I usually thank them for their input, even if I disagree with it, even if it's negative in tone, even if they're making fun of me, saying I don't know what I'm talking about. I thank them for the comment. I thank them for watching my channel or listening to my I guess I can't respond to comments on my podcast. I thank them for reading my blog. I thank them for watching my videos, something like that. And right away, that disarms people. And I do it from a place of genuine joy and compassion for that person. So behind every single account, unless it's a bot, there's a real live human being with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. People go through different things. You have no idea what's going on in that person's life. And yes, they may be taking out something that is going on and that is difficult in their life out on you. And if you see it from that lens, then you will realize that so often these comments have nothing to do with you, and they're more a reflection of how that person feels about themselves rather than you. So that is one of the angles that I use when I am reading comments, so I don't take it to heart. And there's this quote, let me give an explanation for the quote, that I'm actually taking this manifestation course, which is, I know, something that sounds crazy, but I've become super into manifestation, and I actually want to do an episode about manifestation. But how I describe it is it's like goal setting, but you just imagine you've reached your goal already, and this helps you reach your goal faster. But anyways, in this manifestation course, we were learning about the subconscious, and essentially you're programmed by society standards by about the time that you're 7 years old. And you're taught to deal with certain things, emotions, handling arguments, things like that. You are taught by viewing your parents, by viewing society, watching TV, stuff like that. And we're not taught to act out our traumas or to deal with our traumas. So what we do is we deal with them in these inappropriate ways. So in this manifestation course, whenever somebody, the way that the teacher deals with negative comments or negative commentary or anything is that she views that person as a 7-year-old acting out their 7-year-old trauma. So it's really hard to not feel compassion for a 7-year-old. If a 7-year-old were to do something, bad, we'd be like, oh, they're a kid, they don't understand, and help them understand. So I like to use this compassion towards humanity, and it has helped me a lot. It has helped me foster discussions from YouTube comments, even over things that we disagree about scientifically, or that the data are on my side, the research is on my side, but they don't see it from that angle. So thanking them right away is a disarming way to engage your reader, even if they are a negative reader. So that's one of the first things that I am going to do. This next tip is a gigantic one. I would say that if you don't take anything away from this podcast, take away this tip. It is impossible to get everyone to like you. Impossible. Think about your favorite celebrity right now. Think about who you thought was the best politician. They have haters. If you took, okay, 2 examples here in the United States. We had Barack Obama. People loved him. People thought he was the best president in the United States in modern history. People hated him. There are people who thought he was the devil and ruining our country. And the exact same is true for Donald Trump. Some people loved him, were fervent supporters of him. They adored him. They draped themselves in Trump flags, and other people hated him. Now, those are some extreme examples, but if you think of any celebrity, even more benign celebrities like Tom Hanks, there are people who demonize Tom Hanks. I've heard the QAnon people have said things like he drinks the blood of babies, for real, which is crazy. And Tom Hanks, he's such a likable person. He's such a good actor. So everyone has their haters. Oprah has her haters. I remember when people were floating around the idea of Oprah running for president, there were some like Facebook memes and evil stuff said about her, about how awful she was. So no matter who you are in the world, no matter how remarkable you are, no matter how many good things you do for humanity, there will always be people who don't like you. So if you go into your science communication knowing this, that you will never be able to please everyone, that not everyone will like you, then you can have a negative comment. It's just part of the deal. It's just part of the game. You can't please everyone, and that's okay. It's okay if people don't like you. It's totally fine. I don't like everyone. I guess I'm nice to everyone. I shouldn't say I don't like everyone, but maybe I don't, like all the TV shows or all the celebrities. We all have our preferences. So it's okay not to be liked, and it's an impossible goal. What's important to me is if I am in alignment of the content I am creating, if I support it, if I believe in it, of course, if the science is on my side, I do evidence-based research. That's what I use for all of my social media content. Now, if I get a negative comment, I will look into that comment to see if there's some information that can help me. I have this post about Black Panthers in the United States, and that there is no evidence, there's no scientific evidence that there are Black Panthers in the United States, which is a melanistic jaguar or leopard, and there's no jaguars or leopards in the United States. Except for jaguars, there's like one that has been spotted in Arizona. But anyways, for the most part, nothing. And I have all these comments about people swearing they saw Black Panthers. And in some of the comments, they insinuate that I think I'm better than them because I have a degree or because I'm a scientist. So that is actually something that I am taking in as information when I make future videos. Like, am I coming across as like too authoritative or too academic, and I want to be more relatable. So sometimes within the negative comments, you can see a nugget of advice that might actually help you, and it's okay. But again, you're gonna have to like sort through what is actually true and what's not. Like going through my exhaustion comment. My exhaustion comment, I guess I don't know if it's true or not, but it did bother me a little bit. But whatever, I let it go. Another thing I wanted to say about having negative comments is once you have negative comments, once you have actually trolls, you've made it. You're a celebrity, or you're a celebrity on social media. If you think about all the celebrities out there, they all have their haters. So you get to talk about your haters, and you get to elevate to that new different status. So use it as a positive thing, that you are saying things that people are listening to. So I personally, I always like getting comments, even if they are negative.